Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pop Therapy, a podcast where we explore the intersection between psychology and pop culture. There's so much to unpack, so let's get started. Well, welcome back. It's me, Omar, your friendly neighborhood therapist, and I have a few agenda items I wanted to go over. Number one, so I made a decision recently that I hope you all can get behind and support me on. Don't be mean to me. I just decided I'm going to commit to being kind of bad at podcasting for a while. I think I just need to lean into making mistakes, lean into the sound quality not being quite what I want it to be, leaning into the editing not being so great. I know I've been talking about that a lot, but it really is nerve-wracking for me to try and put out something of quality. And I don't just mean in terms of the topics or the themes or the conversations. Of course that matters, but more like the audio quality and the editing quality. And it's so anxiety inducing that I said to myself, Omar, just be bad at this for a little while. Be bad for a little while and pray and keep your fingers crossed that over time you'll get a little bit better. So I'm just trying to keep that in mind. So that's what I say to myself to ease some of my anxiety about this being good enough or not. Just sort of saying I'm committing to not being so good at it. So don't yell at me if the quality is not that good. I told you I already committed to being bad. There was one other thing I wanted to go over. I heard someone recently, I forget where, talk about the fact that they didn't know how to break up with their therapist. And I thought that was such a good, maybe mini topic that I can go over, and maybe even our guest has some thoughts when I introduce them. And this particular individual was talking about not breaking up because something bad happened, but breaking up because they'd been seeing their therapist for years and they were sort of fine. They were good. All the sessions at that point started to feel more like maintenance, not so much covering anything big or small, or it was just sort of a recap of the week. And they were thinking about how to break up with their therapist. And they were like, is that even possible? Is that a thing? Do people do that? And the short answer to that is yes, of course. So if you're ever thinking about ending therapy with your therapist, the short answer is bring it up, talk, let them know what's been on your mind and let them know that perhaps you've been thinking about this for a while and just have a conversation with them. Endings and goodbyes are okay. And your relationship with your therapist, while really intimate and while really important, also at some point will end. And that is something that therapists are keenly aware of. In fact, I recommend session one or during your consultation call, if you're vetting a therapist and you take a consultation call with them, or during the first session, to ask them about termination of therapy, or how does therapy end? How do you end therapy? How will we know when it's time for me to take a break from therapy? And I think that's a really good question to ask your therapist in the beginning. Not crucial, not the most important thing in the world, but I think that could tell you a lot and also give you a sense of how each therapist or how your therapist approaches endings, because everyone's a little bit different. Some therapists are okay with ending kind of right away. If you bring it up and you're oh, I'm ready to take a break, and they're okay, great, call me when you want. And other therapists are a little bit more prone to weaning off of therapy. So you might then switch to every other week, then maybe once a month, and then you end therapy. So I thought that was a really good question. How do you end therapy? And I don't think a lot of people even know that that's a really important conversation to have, because most of the time it's how do you start therapy? So endings are important. Endings are healthy. So yeah, just bring it up with your therapist. With that being said, I am so excited to introduce our next guest. He is, I mentioned, he's my final Infinity Stone. So now I'm invincible. Now I'm like Thanos and I can just snap people away. He is a journalist, formerly in Kinky Boots and West Side Story, and the current co-host of the award-nominated podcast, Tres Leches Podcast. Please welcome into your hearts, Juan Torres-Falcon.
Hi. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. First of all, because I've always felt a very big connection to you because of our last name.
Yes. Torres in the house. I wonder if you went back far enough in our family tree, I wonder if we have like a relative or like an ancestor that we share.
I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. And, and even if we didn't, I don't know if you feel this way, but maybe because I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And there is because there's so many Latinos there, if you grow up with so many Latinos, you love the culture so much. You love being around Latinos, celebrating Latinos your whole life. So that even when I'm in New York and I'm around, I guess, I'm still around plenty of Latinos, but if there's more diversity here than there is, believe it or not, in South Florida. And whenever I meet someone who speaks Spanish or has my same last name or even, just a Hispanic last name, I'm just like, this is family immediately.
There's like an immediate comfort usually. There's something, I mean, most of the time it's like not really earned, but in my head, but it's there. In my head, I'm like, oh, okay, there is some overlap here. There are some things that they'll just get. There are some things they'll just understand. So it feels so nice. Yeah, that I feel the exact same way. If there's like an instant relief a little bit, because usually with like being around white people, I'm usually like, just mindful, right? I'm just like, okay, Omar, like, don't get too loud or don't do this or what. I mean, and that's all in my head. Obviously, I'm like working on that in therapy, but with other Latin people, obviously, like that's like not even a thing I think
let
about.
My hair down.
Yeah, exactly. Your skin looks so good, by the way.
Thank you.
You did Pride. You did Pride, right?
I'm being assisted by a little bit of makeup because we just recorded Tres Leches right before this.
Oh, nice.
We did. We had a little bit of our post Pride recap and just a friendship. The episode was like a real friendship follow up. Tres Leches is with my co-host Johnny Cibellini and Paget, and we've been having a lot of guests on, but this week it was just us, and it kind of prepared me for today because we really were kind of doing the kind of therapizing you do with friends, because it was very at the core of what Tres Leches was always meant to be, which is finding community and love in your chosen family of friends. And so, so I did. I put a little bit of BB cream and a little NW 45.
You called in the glam squad.
Friends.
You called in the glam squad. No, you look great. I mean, I feel bad because I'm not doing video. I'm like, I cannot add another element to this. You should see me trying to edit this. I feel so bad. Anyone that's listening, just my mom, has already heard this a million times. Me editing, I feel like those cliche, like grandpa trying to like FaceTime, but it's like up their nose. I feel like when I'm editing, I'm like, what are these words? Like import, export. I don't know what that means. So yeah.
If you ever need tech support, you can count on me. I have edited many, many hours, not only for the stages, although now we have a wonderful editor that we're working with, Sheena Whitman. She's amazing. But if you ever need any, I've edited so many podcasts before. I did it for a living for a while.
No way.
Yes. So I will tell you, here's what I love about podcasts. Okay. And here's what I like about you not doing video. I think that video and monetizing it, and everyone is doing it now because we want to have something to watch while we listen on our phones. But podcast, to me, the triumph of podcasting is that it is this Wild West, right? You can say really provocative things and not get in trouble often as much as if you had added a video element to it. But more than that, by limiting it to just audio, you create this intimate, very, very intimate thing, like being in someone's ear, in their AirPods while they're at home, cleaning, shopping at the grocery store, commuting. It becomes this little dance that you're doing in someone's ears. It's so private. And I'm glad that you're not involving the video element yet, because I think that especially for a lot of the subjects that you're talking about, it's about just a quiet, sweet, tender conversation. And the human voice does that in a way that when we add the body, it's all too much. It's hocus pocus. That's all. Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
That was so poetic. I love that. That was like, that was like prose. That was so lovely. That is exactly my same relationship to podcasts is that, and we've all heard this a million times, where it feels like you are in the conversation with the folks that you're listening to, or you feel like, oh, these are my friends. And like, we are just like chatting on the phone. The video element, while obviously like fun to see, right? But I also wanted my guests to not have to think about how they looked.
Set them free.
Set them free. Exactly. Kind of, I mean, like a therapy session. You know what I mean? Like a therapy session where the client doesn't have a mirror. You know, although it's Zoom, most of my clients turn off their own self view so they can't see themselves, which I think is really smart because it can be distracting. So I thought the video element would help with the intimacy, to your point, and just help folks feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more open and vulnerable and all that good stuff. And selfishly, I don't want to edit more things. The audio is enough.
It's enough.
I'm so fascinated, if you don't mind me jumping in. I'm so curious to hear more about your relationship with journalism, because that's what you went to school for, correct?
Yes.
And you work for CBS Sunday Morning?
Yes, I was at CBS Sunday Morning for a long time. Okay. I had a wonderful run at CBS Sunday Morning. I had so many fantastic experiences. But I'll tell you, so I grew up as a musical theater performer. And I grew up in a journalism household. My mom is a journalist and then TV producer and TV executive. Yeah. So she worked at Univision and Telemundo, the Spanish language stations, and my mom's had a legendary career in television. So I had it in the house. Yeah.
And a woman in journalism is like, that's even more, to have such a long career as a woman in journalism, as a Latina in journalism. I mean, that's so impressive.
Yeah. And so not only did she started as a journalist, and then she went kind of into the executive management side, and she ran Univision for many years.
Wow.
She ran the news departments at both Telemundo and Univision. She's actually, I'm going to boast for her. Okay, so next week, my mother is being inducted into the National Association of Hispanic Journalists Hall of Fame.
No fucking way.
Yeah, oh my God, Alina Falcon. Alina is her name.
Congratulations, Alina.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm very, very proud of her. But so journalism was just we were a TV news family. Yeah. And I have my cousin Michelle. She works for the ABC station in Miami. She's the executive producer of their 6:30 newscast. I've had my cousin Andy, who has worked as a photographer and as an engineer for one of the stations in Miami too. So it was just like in the bones.
Yeah.
And then I was a musical theater performer for a long time, but I always knew that eventually I was not going to perform.
Okay.
I just knew that I wasn't going to perform forever. I knew, even from an early age, that was going to have an expiration date.
For any
particular, see myself.
For any particular reason, like,
I think I've always been a very hyper realistic, maybe a little bit jaded, and there's a little nihilism in me.
Okay,
even from a young age, and I just knew I just didn't see myself doing it in my 40s and 50s.
Sure,
I didn't have a vision for that. I had a vision of me doing. I wanted to do a chorus line, Rent, West Side Story. That's what I had a vision for. I wanted to do those shows. And then through my early career, I did all three. Then I did Kinky Boots. And then I was doing Kinky Boots. And I was on the road for about 2 years. And I looked around and I said, okay, what's available in New York to audition for? Because I was on the road with Kinky Boots. I was touring with it. And I was like, okay, what is available in New York? At the time, Hamilton was opening. I had auditioned for it, didn't get it. Okay. I had been in for Wicked many times before over the years. Loved the show, never got it. And there was really nothing else like that made my mouth water.
Right.
So I thought, okay, this may be the time. I'm going to apply for grad school. In many ways, I was kind of at the peak of my performing career.
Yeah.
And then, but I thought, let me apply for grad school. And then I went to Columbia for journalism. And it was obviously a transformative experience because it was a total change after being in a creative endeavor, but a very different kind of creative endeavor, obviously. And it was difficult. It was a very, very hard change. Even though I was a good student in high school and college, I was a good student, but I hadn't been a student in this way in a long time and writing and everything else. But, it was 2016, and I thought, how can I make a meaningful contribution?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do? It was 2016, and it was the first Trump election campaign cycle was happening. And I was like, I feel like I have something to say.
Yeah.
I am Jasmine Masters, and I have something to say. And so I thought, let me take a whack at it. And then I got into grad school. And after grad school, it was just this fantastic, weird, crazy opportunities. Like I worked in podcasting, as I mentioned.
Right.
And then I went to work at CBS Sunday Morning, where I got to do so many way over my pay grade things. Because when I joined at CBS Sunday Morning, it was right before the pandemic started. I started in 2019. But the pandemic would come and change the news business, and we were all working remotely. And a lot of as the more junior people on the staff, all of a sudden we had all these great opportunities because the senior staff were giving us these opportunities because everyone had to be more nimble.
Right.
Right. So I was doing things I just had access to these opportunities that maybe I wouldn't have had.
And were these
before the pandemic?
Were these opportunities like working with certain people or working on certain stories?
It was hands-on opportunities to help create content and produce television, pitch ideas.
Oh, wow.
Do interviews, be really scrappy and be creative about how are we going to produce this show remotely? Mm-hmm. And they relied on the young tech minds. We were like this young, scrappy, and I was on the older end of the young junior staff. But they were depending on us to be like, how are we going to do these interviews remotely? How are we going to do these hybrid interviews? Who's going to go out in the field? And because of a lot of the staff was older, mm-hmm. we also they were more afraid of mm-hmm. COVID-19.
Right. Okay.
We are afraid of Cornova. Sorry, Wendy Williams reference. So I was out in the field getting to cover things that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do. Yeah, and I'm very proud of that time. I won an Emmy when I was there for I contributed to one of our episodes about policing that won. Uh-huh. And it was amazing. But my relationship with journalism is this. The reason I feel so aligned in my purpose mm-hmm. in news and is because I feel like being a performer on stage has helped me obviously with the stagecraft, how to look into a camera, et cetera, feel confident
and talk to an audience,
how to express myself with language. Sure. But more importantly, I think that being an actor, you have to exercise the muscle of empathy. Mm-hmm. You have to really project yourself into the world of other people. And I think that as a journalist, there's probably no greater gifts to have other than, of course, maybe being a good writer, mm-hmm. is to be able to immediately sink into someone's brain and emotional experience to try to tell their story for them, to be the narrator for them.
Right.
And I've always really tried to do that. And so I also feel like I don't bullshit, Yeah. I know how to talk to people. Mm-hmm. And so, journalism it's been a joy. It's been a joy. Although now I'm not working at CBS Sunday Morning anymore. Now I'm producing a show called Theater, All the Moving Parts. It airs public television. Okay. It airs here in New York. You can watch it on CUNY TV.
Okay.
And it's an hour-long show about theater, which was kind of a return to form. I wanted to do something.
A little full circle moment.
A little full circle moment. We get to spend an hour talking about theater, which is rare on television now, to have that amount of time to just talk about Sondheim or Audra McDonald in Gypsy. And it's great. I'm really enjoying it. It's been a lot of work, more work than I expected, to be honest. But sometimes I kind of miss the old vicious news cycle at Sunday morning, but it's been great.
That's lovely. I love how you drew a connection between performing musical theater and journalism, because it is all storytelling, isn't it? I hearing you talk about it. I was like, oh yeah, duh. You have to be able to connect with your audience, whoever's listening to you. And you do have to be able to tap into the emotion of it all, right? You do have to be able to tap into something within yourself that can connect to the story and then share the story, tell the story in a meaningful way, to like do it justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never would have thought of it that way. But hearing you talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that does make a lot of, I can see those skills being relatively transferable.
Yeah. You ask a lot of journalists and they'll tell you, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah,
That's kind of like
yeah.
a little bit cliche, but really, yeah, we're all storytelling and it is that. But what sometimes what happens is that a lot of journalists forget about, they're just telling the story. They're not helping. They're just retelling facts versus telling a story.
Yeah.
Truly,
Yeah.
you know, giving it color and life. And in this moment, I just think journalism is at a weird time. And I feel like public trust is very low. And this is a controversial statement. You know, there's this whole thing about like objectivity, right? You're supposed to be objective as a journalist.
And like unbiased, objective and unbiased is a lot of that.
Objective and unbiased. That's the idea. By the way, that's a modern idea. That is not foundational to how journalism once existed.
Okay, gotcha.
That is a 20th century
Fascinating.
Edition.
Okay.
Yes. The idea of like unbiased, we present both sides. That is a newer concept. It's journalism as we know it, for sure, but it is a newer concept. And there's something about it is that I love the idea that because I'm brown, because I'm queer, because my father's Black, because I'm Cuban, because I'm visibly gay, performatively so, my objectivity is compromised.
Right. 100%. Yes. Yes.
My objectivity is compromised.
Right.
And because I really don't believe in objectivity. I know journalists are like, I'm objective. I don't really believe it. To me, the notion of that is quite boring. Who cares about that?
Yeah.
Like, who cares about objectivity? Can we talk about truth? Can we talk about the whole story, the good, the bad, and the ugly? That reliance on I'm objective has led to this level of mistrust that we have. Because people already think you're not objective. So what can they?
Right. So this feels like a very philosophical kind of question that I don't know if there's like an actual answer to, but I am constantly asking myself just like, is it possible to be unbiased? Like, does that actually exist, to be strictly objective all the time? Does true objectivity exist? And like, I really don't know the answer to that. I find it hard to believe that it exists in the purest form that we can talk about. Like, sure, 2 + 2 is 4. I suppose that's like an example of like, oh, I'm being objective here. 2 + 2 is 4. So like, I suppose that's like one example of like pure objectivity. But outside of that, to your point, it's like, you live in this world and this world has shaped you and informed you. So I don't know. I think maybe it exists on a spectrum versus a binary. Like you either are objective or you're not. I think it's more of like a spectrum is sort of how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's right. It is a spectrum. And
even the truth,
you can't avoid it. To me, you cannot be truly unbiased.
Right.
And you cannot be completely objective.
Yeah.
Those things you can do is openly assess and acknowledge your bias.
Exactly. Right.
You can acknowledge it. You can involve it in the conversation. You know, really, and not to make this a whole talk about journalism.
No,
but
please.
It's like, here's how I think about it. There's only one kind of person who gets to perform objectivity. Only one kind of person, and that is a white, good-looking man. That's the only person who gets to perform it and maybe make you believe it.
Right.
Because, woman reciting a story about abortion, any woman on television, you're going to be, but she's pro-choice.
Right.
But she's pro-choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's got to be pro-choice.
Right.
If she's a Black woman, a Black man,
right,
covering a story about Donald Trump. Well, he's from a city; he's probably liberal.
Exactly, the assumption is already right.
Correct. So you can't undo that. I, as a gay person, do not get to remove those lenses that people see me through.
Exactly.
So I'm not interested in objectivity because no one's going to think that I'm objective anyway.
Right.
But I can show up. To tell a story as a journalist with a sense of who I am.
Yeah. Right.
Right. With the complete sense of it and acknowledge it.
Right.
It's
and make
real.
it part of what you're sharing. So this is the lens with which I am telling this story, or this is the lens that I'm using in order to think about this story or conceptualize this story. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's noble cause. Like I get why people are like, journalists need to be objective. I understand the rationale behind that. Don't get me wrong. And I think if like human beings weren't human beings, if they were robots, sure, that could be possible, probably. But we're all shaped by the world around us, whether we realize it or not. We're always using our own lens that is limited by our own perspective. And so I agree. I prefer someone just letting me know, like, so this is how I'm viewing it through the lens of this, through the lens of my experience. And it doesn't mean that it's like right or wrong or whatever. It is just a way of looking at this, which I really appreciate.
And it's not about sharing your own opinion necessarily.
Right.
But it is about giving a complete story. And if there's an elephant in the room, someone better mount it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's going to be there. We have to address it.
We have to name it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ever heard of the concept of the Act One gun?
No. What's that?
Okay. The Act One gun. If you go see a play, you go see a play, and during Act One, you see a gun, somebody better shoot that gun in
Right. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Someone better shoot that gun in Act Two. That gun better go off. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a murder.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to need a murder. Manslaughter at the very least.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like when something is so visible and is so present, to not acknowledge it feels foolish.
Yeah.
And I think it's created a lot of distrust with journalists. And I think that what's happened is that a lot of places have doubled down on this like incredible, we are objective, we are this, we are this. And an era in which fewer and fewer people want that. There's no appetite for that because people are smarter than that.
That is such a great segue into what I also wanted to discuss with you about the shit in the world of journalism. And I've been like thinking about this ever since I booked you. I'm like, I cannot wait to talk to Juan about this thing I've been thinking about, which is the shift from getting our news from like an anchor person on like the television, the news, you know, like they're sitting behind the desk and they're dressed really nice and they have the papers in front of them and they right. And it's very that like television anchor person, anchor man, anchor woman. Whereas now I feel like, and I've read this, so don't quote me, but now it's a lot more people are getting their news from social media influencers.
Oh, gosh,
and they're getting their news from people not necessarily dressed up in a cute pencil skirt and a blazer or a suit and a tie, but they're getting it from folks like wearing a hat, walking down the street or in their car. Or I find that shift fascinating. I've of course heard people kind of lament about that, kind of turn their nose at that and sound kind of disappointed in younger, like, oh, I can't believe you're getting your news from TikTok. You're getting your news from Twitter. And again, I'm not here to say that this is like okay or bad or whatever. I am just noticing the shift and I'm finding it fascinating. Yeah. And a lot of the literature is saying like, yeah, younger people, most of the vast majority of the information they're getting is from social media. Yes. I would love to hear like your thoughts on that. Like,
I love it.
Wonderful.
I love that people are breaking the traditional media, legacy media relationships and finding their news in other places. And by the way, that was true of young people only for a while. And now every boomer and Gen X, they're all up on their Facebooks for better.
That is so true. That is so true.
So, I think that people can be a little bit doomsday about this.
Yeah.
And I am a legacy media gal.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I really do hope to return to CBS News.
Yeah.
And be a part of that machine and have the weight, the legal department and the cameras and the reach No, I think I took for granted the reaches that I had when I was at Sunday Morning. To be in that many homes, to have to work on a show
Right.
that's so universally loved.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't take it for granted, but I appreciate it even more now. So
Totally.
But I will say this. So I love legacy media, but I'm glad that people are finding news where they want to find it. And they're going to people that they like. I know that this is going to sound controversial, but if people want to get their news from Megyn Kelly, who now has a very toxic, messy YouTube news program, I'm happy they're getting it from Megyn Kelly.
Right. If that's what they want.
Because the truth is, she's good. She's good at what she does.
Okay.
She is a mess. I mean, I may disagree with her on many things.
Yeah.
But at least people are going to her for information. They're building a relationship.
Right.
That is still
the relationship part is big.
That's important. And the same way people go to, I can't remember their name, but Tiny Desk on TikTok. Or Kevin, if you want to really follow someone, go to Here's Why Kevin on Instagram. He is fantastic. Kevin is doing daily reporting on his own. But the reason, going back to the Megyn Kelly thing, I just want to share some other people who are doing this kind of thing. The thing with Megyn is that, sure, it is toxic and it is completely biased. It is.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's a bad thing.
Right.
And I think a lot of people worry about the lies that people are consuming through social media and the inflammatory language and all of that. And
the misinformation and stuff.
Misinformation is rampant. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not. There are very, very dangerous people like Alex Jones and what he did to the victims of Sandy Hook and in terrorizing their lives. There is no punishment big enough. Electric chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Lethal injection on an empty stomach. Okay. No last meal, baby.
You're out of here. Yeah.
You're out of here. So I know that is true, but I also think that this democratization can be very good.
Absolutely.
There are people doing really good work. And, everyone might be able to fall for a charlatan for a while.
Sure.
But the houses of cards often fall.
Right.
Like Alex Jones. And yes, there are going to be people who lie and make a complete career out of lying. But then there are people who are doing really good work.
Right.
I may not disagree with their style or their political affiliation, but they're still telling the story to their audience. And you know what? This idea, we need to meet in the middle. Yeah. That is so boring to me. I don't want to meet in nobody's middle.
Right.
I don't want to meet in nobody's middle. No. People should go to find the news from people from whom they like.
Right.
That they feel comfortable with and that meet them wherever they are. That's my opinion on this subject.
I think that's such a good point. The news for so long, in my memory, felt so centralized. Like there were news stations and that's where you got your news. Or maybe you listened to a radio station in the morning, but that was basically it. But the democratization aspect, I do find really fascinating and do think ultimately is really helpful to sort of decentralize information and to spread it out. I mean, who would have thought that political influencer would be a thing? You know what I mean? Lifestyle influencer, social media influencer, fitness influencer, and then, over the past few years, we're seeing the rise of political influencers. And you're right. These are individuals that meet their audience where they're at. Their audience members trust them, which is huge. And that's why platforms like Substack are getting bigger and bigger. And there's something much more intimate about that one-on-one relationship. And so I totally hear you. I think people want to get their news from people they like and trust. And I think the status quo just isn't cutting it anymore.
Yeah. And by the way, a lot of people disagree with me.
Sure.
There are a lot of people who disagree and very smart people who think that trusting these people who are with no legal departments and no consequences potentially because they just post and the next day it's gone and everything else. I get that all. I get that all. But I'm not a person who I don't worry too much about the loss of things that way. Like, I love forward movement and change and different landscapes.
And it's always messy, change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Forward movement and change has never been linear. It's never been cute and clean. It's always been like puberty, just kind of messy and really uncomfortable. And hopefully you survive and you make it out the other end looking great and feeling yourself. But until then,
period.
Yeah, it's not cute. It's not very cute.
It's really not.
Yeah. How has your background in journalism helped you develop the Tres Leches podcast and grow it and cultivate it to where it is now?
Well, I think that this podcast has been such a joy to work on because it's always just been three people talking, three friends getting to know each other. We have tried to keep it very, not light, but keep it informal. But as a journalist, there is something that you're always thinking about the bigger picture. You're always thinking about, like, okay, what is someone going to gather from this conversation? I was thinking about, like, okay, we're talking about douching, but like, how can I relate that to a 45-year-old white woman, mother of three from Kennesaw, Georgia?
Well, when if you have the answer to that, let me know, because I would.
Yes, I really just think it's as long as you're thinking about how to reach people, that everything is not going to be for everyone.
Right.
As a journalist, you're always kind of thinking, okay, how do I make this about someone else? How does this thing about douching become about health? And how do I involve more people? How do I bring people under my tent?
So thoughtful. Yeah.
You just kind of think, I don't know. That's also just the journalism, like, ratings, mass appeal.
Oh, I see.
Vibe. Okay. That's also that too at its most, maybe the not so nice view of that would be just like wanting to get eyes on your piece. But yeah, I think it's always been we always wanted to have a good mix of entertainment and fun. Entertainment, fun, and news. Yeah. So, like, we're not going to talk about Supreme Court decisions on Tres Leches the same way I would at CBS News, but that doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it and that it doesn't deserve we talked about. And also, like, this is my other news philosophy, and then I'm sorry I've gone on and on and on about this, but my other news philosophy is I don't really believe in news sources that are just all one thing anymore. I think that people want entertainment and pop culture, and the comeback being renewed for season 3, which is the best news of all time. And we want to hear about the shooting outside of Stonewall in the same day, in the same moment, with the same voice. We can deal with high and low. Yeah. We are boys and girls and they, thems. We are big enough. Yeah. We can do it. We can handle it. We can celebrate one thing and cry about another.
Totally.
All within one conversation.
I think it's about treating your audience like they're smart. Like treat them like intelligent individuals, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that can come across often, and not just journalism in media, but like in any form of media, whether it's like a play or a book or a TV show. Like, you can tell when the writers are treating you like an intelligent person, which you
really can. You absolutely can. You have to give them and help people feel smart. Help people feel smart by giving them, them the tools to do so.
I wasn't aware, I'm like changing the subject a little bit, but I wasn't aware.
Tell me.
That you, Johnny, and Ian have such a long history of a friendship. You and Ian have known each other for a gajillion years.
I
was like scrolling back through your Instagram, and I just kept scrolling. I was like, oh my God, they've known each other forever.
We were children. We were 15.
Oh, wow.
We were 15 years old. Yeah. So maybe 16, but I think it was 15. So we grew up doing theater together in South Florida. We were a part of this performance troupe called Broadway's Class Act. And Broadway's Class Act was hilarious. We were like all these, musical theater freaks, boys and, girls, teenagers. And then the national tours of the shows that would come through, we would do promotional events for the Broward Center for the Performing Arts and for the Kravitz Center and for, I can't remember then the Jackie Gleason Theater on Miami Beach. I can't believe it was called that. We would do promotional events. So we would go like perform Hairspray at wherever, like whatever
That's
place.
so cute.
And sometimes we would get to be the ensemble and they would bring down the stars of the show from New York. So we did an event for All Shook Up, which is the Elvis musical that Cheyenne Jackson, the delicious Cheyenne Jackson played Elvis. Okay, so he is very delicious now, Can you imagine that man 20 years ago when you were a 17-year-old little gay boy in Miami, and that hunk of burning love.
That tall drink of water,
I had never seen a man that
tall. You're like, they can get that tall?
You please Google Cheyenne Jackson in like All Shook Up.
Oh, I can't wait.
He is so dreamy. The dreaminess factor was crazy. It was crazy. And so imagine all of us like dancing behind him, being like, oh yeah, I can't wait till we get to New York. Oh, so funny. But yeah, that's how I met Ian. And then Johnny, I met here in New York. So we weren't friends in Miami, but we had this inherent cultural connection. And being from Miami and being from South Florida too, I think there are many people will say this about where they're from, but you have this shared experience that is so bonkers because Miami is this cultural melting pot. It's so much Latinidad everywhere. And then you also grow up too fast in Miami, because it's so much partying, etc. Everything. So it's just this weird, amazing place to grow up. So yeah, Ian was really my first real gay, like bestie. My real first gay friend. I had gone to camp at Stage Door Manor in upstate. So I had other gay friends, but like he was like my first weird, just like that we really connected in a really deep way. And yeah, it's amazing to look back and I'm grateful to have gay friendships that long. And that's not to say that our friendship this year certainly has had its peaks and its valleys. We had if you listen to the podcast, we had a very intense conversation about when I first have a new boyfriend, my boyfriend, Jay. He's amazing. And
shout out Jay. Woo.
Hi. And so we had a really intense conversation about what best friendships change when new people come into each other's lives. And that has just certainly put a big strain on our relationship. But there's just so much shared history.
Yeah. So much foundation. Yeah.
25 years almost. So it's nice to have people in your life for that long that are friends,
And that have seen your trajectory. Like not many, you know what I mean? Like you and Ian can both give an oral history on each other in a way that very few people can, which I think is just like it's such an honor to have those people in your life that they can be like, oh my gosh, I remember you when. And you need those people in your life because you forget often just like how it all happened, how it all came to be. Yes, and it's so good to have people remind you like, no, I remember when you were broke and in grad school and just like eating leftover, like days old leftover pizza and all, you know what I mean? So I think that's like so special and important to have.
I've told Ian this, but I think Ian needs to write a book about the early TikTok days when Ian Paget and his ex-boyfriend Chris Olsen, they were part of like the first big wave of TikTok influencers. I mean, they're come up, we're talking like 1 million followers in months.
Yeah. Okay.
Like when you could still do that, when that was still a thing, that level of virality was even possible. And that chapter, like seeing what that was, like that kind of fame. I think that it's not that it's quieted, but now it's familiar. But at the time, it was so stratospheric. It was just an interesting thing to watch a friend kind of go through that in the early days of this app that is now so ubiquitous.
Right.
But yeah, it was an interesting chapter to be a friend and kind of watch that and then have, the world react. So, you find out about one of your best friends' breakup. And then the world is also doing it in this weird parasocial relationships because of social media. It's interesting. It was a really interesting time. So yeah, we've got a lot of
material.
We have many memories.
Yeah. What has been one of the more surprising things from doing the podcast? Is there anything that like surprised you, even like pleasantly surprised you, or maybe not so pleasantly surprised you about doing the podcast?
Yeah, I will tell you. I'll start with the good.
Lovely.
Here's the good thing that has been a surprising thing that we didn't expect. What has been the connection with younger than us? I'm 38, but as we always say, we're 27 plus.
I love that.
The podcast all too much. I've seen this connection with younger LGBTQIA Latinos, Latines, o sea, like, young Latine people. I've been surprised by it. Not that we didn't expect it, perhaps, but yeah, because I think we always wanted to like make sure that our brownness, our cultural history from Miami. Ian is an Honduran. I'm Cuban on both sides, and Johnny's Cuban and Dominican. And so that was obviously just like in our backpack already. Yeah. We just knew that was going to be a part of it, but we get stopped all the time by young dreamers, like giving, we had an early encounter with these like 2 DOC recipients.
Oh, wow.
Who I was in South Florida, and they came up to me. I was alone, I was with my mom. And they talked about how it was kind of created a vision of like, being brown in your 30s could look like for them. And I always found that really moving. So that's been really surprising, and just the connection overall. And I think that maybe not even a negative thing, but it's always interesting. And I think anyone who shares their life online will say the same. This is not a hot take, but it is something that has come up, is that, once you monetize in a way your relationship, you are not scripting it, but you are saving it for the show.
Yes,
you want to, it becomes more medical.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Strategic.
Scientific.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
When you have to add the stagecraft of a podcast, it's like, I used to think about reality TV, like, okay, the camera starts and then they start the conversation.
Right.
And that happens a little bit of time, and that can make interactions feel forced sometimes, like not even that it's forced in a bad way. It's a technical thing, to be like, okay, let's start that story again. Right. And then, it kind of puts sometimes an odd thing that's sharing your life online.
I mean, that's part of podcasting. That's part of this work. Exactly. And I don't think it has to, I appreciate you saying it's not necessarily a negative thing, but it is just something you are noticing. It's like, okay, here's this element that wasn't really a part of our friendship before that is now. And I'm just going to keep an eye on it. This is a new element, and it's just like an interesting thing that we're like navigating for sure.
Exactly. For sure. Yeah. And it's nice to have this catch up, like you're going to have this scheduled date with your people. And that's nice. I mean, our lives have changed a lot since we started the show. Yeah. I mean, my life has changed very dramatically. Johnny's moved, to Austin, although he's still kind of between LA and Austin, but now he's spending more time in Austin. Ian moved back to New York and really changed everything. I was really in the throes of figuring out my life after a really significant breakup. And to think that where I am now, I mean, I didn't even know where I was going to live. I mean, I was just in shambles in many ways. And so the podcast, especially those early months, were about sharing. All of that sharing gave me such clarity, because I really had to explain my story for other people, and not even to a therapist, because, with the therapist, it's like, okay, like there's so much context. I was telling some of my story and of trying to get it in a bite-sized way, in a easily consumable way, in an episode or 2 episodes, and it really made me streamline how I'm thinking about things. It was almost like a journal entry.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
It brought me a lot of clarity. It really has.
I can absolutely see how that process happens unknowingly, right? You're just sharing, you're mindful of the time, you're mindful of the fact that it has to be accessible information. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wait, this is sort of lifting the curtain. I'm like, oh, my eyes are opening up to things. Oh, I said that out loud. Like, oh, hearing myself say that like makes me think about this differently, which I think is an excellent segue into the question that I ask all my guests, which is, what is one piece of advice or piece of wisdom that you've gotten from the therapy world. So this can be from your own therapist. This can be from a therapist on social media, or a book that you read, or a podcast that you listened to. What's one piece of advice that you're like, oh, I'm taking this with me everywhere I go?
So this has come from two places.
Okay.
I had a teacher in college tell me this, a vocal performance teacher who was teaching us how to perform a song.
Okay.
I'll give the context of that will matter in a second. And I also heard it from a therapist in my mid-20s, maybe 3 or 4 years after this.
Oh, wow.
And they said it the exact same way. You know, people have a saying was like, well, they riff on it.
Yes.
It's similar, but different. I said it exactly the same because it's a very simple statement. 100% of one thing at one time.
Say more. Speak on it.
So in the original context, it was a professor named Doug Hall. He's an incredible director and musical theater thinker, you know, because he's not just a writer and composer, he's also a director, and he does it all. He's a professor. I think he's at FSU now in Florida, if I remember correctly, but here nor there. He was teaching us, like, you know, you're performing a song, and let's say Somewhere Over the Rainbow, right? Somewhere Over the Rainbow can mean so many things. It could be about you thinking about someone who passed away. You can be thinking about leaving an abusive household. I mean, you can create whatever story
around
to
that
make
song.
your performance of Somewhere Over the Rainbow something. But ultimately, you can only perform 100% of one thing at one time. What am I conveying in this line, in this moment? Sure, a very skilled actor, there's a lot of nuance. You put in a lot of colors onto a song or performance, right? Meryl Streep can do that. But a great performance can be that simple. And that stayed with me, and I loved it. I really always you applied it for performance and for auditioning, and, you know, when you're performing a song.
How did that? And then I'm sorry, quick question. How did that influence your performances afterward? How did that change the way you would approach things then?
It simplified things.
Right? Okay.
It simplified things, because what can happen is you try to do too many things at once in a song. You're trying to you're trying to perform this and evoke this and show this, right? And if you really think, okay, this song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, in my mind's eye, you know, you're performing it for, you know, how you're doing it. I am performing it, and I'm singing it to my grandmother. I'm singing it to my grandmother, and I'm making this version, my version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, about being together with our grandpa, her husband, my grandfather, who passed away, you know, and that's all you can play.
Yeah.
That's your world. That's it.
Right.
That's simple. Versus, I'm doing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I've got to honor what Judy Garland did. I have to make sure that it evokes this. It has to be fresh. It has to be new. I have to make sure that the vocals are amazing. 100. Let's work on the vocals. Let's work on the story. Okay, you got the story. Now let's work on the vocals.
Gotcha.
Great. Now let's work on your posture. Oh, you break down all the elements.
Yeah.
But then later on, it came up in therapy. And when my then therapist brought it up, who's since retired, amazing therapist, they brought it up because I was dealing with so much anxiety. I was still performing then.
Okay.
And I still deal with a lot of overwhelm. I can get very easily overwhelmed.
Okay.
And my brain is so committed to excellence and success. It's very first generation immigrant, money, success, greed, power, stability. My brain can be everywhere. And it's something that I really do try to practice and fail at consistently. And yet I think about it all the time. 100% of one thing at one time. What can I do right now? I'm going to do 100% of this conversation with Omar. I'm going to do it as best I can.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go on to this other thing, you know, this other traumatic thing that I'm dealing with, or whatever else. I'm going to give them 100% at that time. That one thing at that one time. And it's practical. You can use it for work. You can use it for packing your bag to go on a trip. You can use it in thinking about problem fighting with a partner, just 100% of this one thing. We can tackle a lot, but let's just do this one thing.
That is so important. I find myself saying that as a therapist and to myself in various ways. This is the first time I've heard it put in this way, which I really appreciate. A lot of what we discuss in like the mental health world, one of the things I find really interesting and that I've grown to appreciate is that there's nothing new really in the world of mental health and how to live your life fully and how to pursue joy and love and connection. It's all already been said, but for some reason, because actually, to go back to your earlier point, I think it's because of our identities. It's because of the fact that we are biased and we have parts of our identity that shaped us. The advice or the wisdom hits differently depending on how it's expressed and by who. So you could hear, because like in therapy, we talk about, you know, breaking down the goal, right? So instead of, so if you're packing, instead of overwhelming yourself by imagining the entire packing process, we'll usually say like, break it down into tiny little steps. So first things first, you need to pack your toiletries. Okay, just focus on that. Like toothbrush and this and that and whatever. Okay, what's next? Underwear. Okay, just next underwear. And just like break it down. And that's what your piece of advice, it invoked in me. It reminded me of how many times I have to remind folks, take the overarching goal and let's just start with like, what is step one? And I often find myself saying to clients, hold your horses. First things first, we got to do this thing. You are already 10 steps ahead. Love how your brain works that fast, but we don't need it to work that fast right now. What's step number one? And this is helpful to hear because it's just like another way of saying this that will resonate with people more than the idea of like, let's take this and break it down into tiny little steps, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Because we become so easily overwhelmed, and for our ADD girlies, ADHD girlies. I think it's ADHD formerly now. It used to be ADD when I was a kid, but now it's ADHD. The beauty of the brain is that it's powerful and that it's fast and that it's electric. But that amount of electricity, honey, the bill can get very expensive. Okay.
Yes, it can.
So let's turn off
that Con Ed bill. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that. That Con Ed bill, that brain Con Ed bill is going to be it's gonna be really. So let's turn off the lights in the other rooms, in the kitchen,
in the other rooms. Let's just leave the light in here,
right?
Because it can just become too much. It just can become way, way too much. Yeah, you know, I was gonna tell you something about breaking up when you mentioned earlier breaking up with your therapist. Because you feel like it maybe it's gone stale or, you know, it's time. You know, listen, we're humans. We're not robots. So like these relationships are going to ebb and flow.
Right.
And it's kind of nice to have to retell your story from the very beginning to someone new.
That's a really good point.
And to redo that after many years, that's normal. That's to be expected. And I think anyone would be okay with hearing that. Yeah. It's time to move on, I think.
I really appreciate that because most of the times it feels and sounds daunting to have to retell your story to someone new. But what we all forget is that the way we tell the story changes every time a little. And it's really important, if you can, to sort of to be able to understand how you've been telling the story differently, what parts of it feel different, what parts of it are the same, because it's a reflection of how you've changed, right? Yeah. The way you tell your story evolves over time because you evolve over time.
Yes, exactly. Years ago with my ex, we would fight sometimes. We didn't fight all that much, but we'd fight sometimes. And when we'd fight, I used to say to him, I wish you could forget some things about me. I wish I could undo your knowledge of me.
Yeah.
Because you haven't allowed me to progress, to evolve.
Yes.
Your vision of me is so defined.
Rigid.
And rigid. And so this is a very different context, but there is something to that. You know, not to say that that your therapist with whom you feel like the relationship is maybe coming to an end isn't able to see you through a new lens,
Right.
but now you get to tell your story to someone else.
Yeah.
With all of this new information that you have.
Yes.
So it's your starting point is different.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. That's a really good point, because that you can do that for yourself. The letting yourself progress in your own mind and not seeing yourself as this like static point that's just like in the same place all the time. Even being able to talk about like mistakes that you've made or, you know, accidents that you've made, to be able to talk about it through the lens of, and this is what I learned from it, and or I don't carry this shame about it anymore, but this is a part of my history. That's the new part of the story that you get to tell. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the thing that happened might be the same story you're sharing, but like what you took away from it, how you grew from it, or where you carry it in your body, that's the newer part of the story that you get to tell.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Oh, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My last really Infinity Stone. I really appreciate it.
The circle has been completed.
Exactly. Where can people find you?
Well, please find me on Instagram and everywhere else at Juan TF Juan. T as in Tom, F as in Frank, for Torres-Falcon. And I'll have you know, I'm gonna pitch it. I'm gonna pitch it here first.
Let's do it. Let's hear it. Okay.
No, I'm actually bringing back something that I did many years ago, which was a daily mini news show where I kind of wrap up the day of the news into a few minutes. It's called In Just 1 Minute. And it's coming back. I'm going to announce it imminently. And so please, if you want to hear about the news through my noggin, come and join.
Oh, I can't wait for you to do that. Oh, this is so timely. We need that. Thank you. That is so relieving to hear. Yeah, we definitely need that right now.
Be good, you know.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, well, that's it, everybody. As you know, I am a therapist, but this podcast is no substitute for good old-fashioned therapy. So
ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth? So take what's useful, leave the rest, and don't forget, therapy makes you hotter. Bye.
Bye. Love you.